Okay, so hello everybody, this is Azure J, and I am here trying to put together a very impromptu how to charge our video. Now, the goal of this particular video isn't to really enlighten on all of the aspects that make one a good charger or even like a great charger, but it's just little things that I've picked up from different people playing with over the course of the game's year of life that I wanted to kind of put into a video, especially since I know that there are a bunch of people who kind of ask every now and again what what they should be focusing on when they're first picking up the weapon. So without much ado, you can kind of see here that I've got one of my usual looks on for a newer one of the chargers I've been using. I've been using it for a good amount of time, you can tell by the first link. Just to kind of give the credentials, I guess. I mean, big numbers don't mean anything more than you play a lot, but I figure I might as well do this so that everybody has a good idea of where I'm coming from. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm going to be sticking with either the bento or the kelp splatter scope, just because that's the thing that I'm most comfortable with. But I figure it's good to mention this because the differences between the vanilla splat chargers, the vanilla e-liters, and of course the scope chargers is one that needs to be pointed out. But at the same time, enough of the fundamentals carry over to each one. So without much ado, I'm going to start by elaborating on a few exercises that people can do if they're really interested in devoting time to charger. Now, one of the things that everybody starts with first, they always start with the understanding that you have to full charge in order to reach target. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to start with because it gets you used to the idea of knowing what your full timer is, taking and shooting things. This is basically what it's all about. However, and if you've interacted with any other charger in the universe right now, you'll probably notice that most of them don't really operate. Instead, they like partial charge or hold, like they juggle between using different partial charges because of the speed at which you get them, or full charges to make sure that whatever they shoot at is dead. In the interest of this video, I'm going to be showing you just a few tricks about how to best use the combination of damage up and speed shots in order to make the best of your time with the charger. The other thing I wanted to kind of mention though is how to snap. Like, it's pretty interesting to think about because snapshots are literally just you move your camera or your control stick or you fling your gamepad, hopefully not out of a window, in one direction or another. When you do that, you get that kind of quick motion and release the shot once you've either read somebody moving in certain directions or once you're certain that you've lined up your shot in such a way that no matter what, it will always hit the target. It sounds kind of over the top, or maybe even just straight up borderline useless information, given that I'm kind of doing a stream of consciousness thing, or anything here. But there is a thing that happens once you've played enough where you actually have something to kind of line it up much better. So, with the interest of kind of actually elaborating on a few things, specifically because a friend was getting the charger himself, let's see here. There's a bunch of little exercises you can do in here in the training lab to kind of get yourself used to certain aspects of the charger you need to be comfortable with in order to do things that you see me and other chargers doing. One such exercise is the following. In the training room, empty out your entire engine. Shoot lines, throw subs, just completely empty. You see that long charge time just now? That's because your tank is completely empty. What you want to do with this is line yourself up with one of the dummies and continually shoot at it. You want to test how long you can shoot at, how long you hold the reticle So that how long you hold the reticle and see the white line charge. You can see the white line charge in the middle of the screen there. While it's charging, you shoot the dummy until you start doing damage in the area of 100 to 105 points of damage. When you see that, you will that is considered your threshold for the earliest that you can kill something. When you reach that threshold, however, be sure to internalize the visual of the charge so that you know just how much charge you have before either release a partial that will be lethal, or before you know that you have to adjust for defense and all of that good stuff. Like, I'm gonna go this one charge. So, like, for example, alright, that's a bit higher, but you can see that's about 75% charge to get that much. See, that was about under 75, and I got 103. On a defense, though, that happened. Also, why I pointed out the damage up earlier, although I didn't articulate well enough with regard to that, because the amount of damage that you have pretty much determines how much faster you're going to get certain shots. When you have certain shots in mind, always be careful to pay attention to who you're shooting at, because if they have any amount of defense up to model off your shot, it's always better recommended to go for the full charge whenever you suspect any defense. Alright, that's one bit out of the way. The next part, I guess you could say, is snapshots. Everybody knows that taking, you shoot at the thing and we call it a day. But everybody always sees in the videos how people do things like that and wonder, how do I do that? Well, the answer is kind of mixed. It's a lot of practice. Like, in all the time I've played the game, I've never actually come up with a consistent way of practicing flips outside of falling. You line yourself up with one of these dummies. Pick one. Either this one, that one in the back, or this one here. I'm going to use this one since I'm close to it. Charge a shot immediately at it. Slowly bring your reticle out of the hitbox of this thing. If you notice on the four corners of this circle with a zoom in, that you can see this thing is basically, no matter what you do, it's going to shoot this thing that's immediately in front of me. If you kind of nudge it slowly, you can see that crosshair start taking aim at the one behind it. This is the concept of peeking, by the way. However, we're using it here not in the context of peeking, but in the context of teaching how to snap. You want to just gradually get used to the idea of how far the degree of motion you use will basically influence how you turn between targets. For clarification's sake, right now I'm doing this all in motion. In the past, I relied heavily on my stick, but my stick is kind of bad now, so I've kind of had to adjust accordingly. And for anybody who's curious, my sensitivity has been +5 since about a month after the game's release, so you can kind of see my stick actually causing some drift there, but we're not going to say anything more about that. So, basically, in this exercise, you kind of line yourself up with one of the hitboxes and just gently move yourself that way. Then you do the same for the farthest one out. And you just do it repeatedly. While you're doing this, however, try and increase the speed between your reactions. Like, gradually. Don't try and go immediately from 0 to 60. I mean, I do it because I'm just used to it, but you can always just kind of do that. Practice actually seeing the thing before you shoot. After a certain point in time, you'll reach a point where you can just immediately guess. Like, yes, it sounds kind of hilarious, but a lot of the really quick shots are, in fact, just guesses. but their educated guesses based on how you know where people are approaching from, where you are on a stage, or what it is you're currently looking at in the distance. So, but for the sake of this, again, you just keep on going back until you reach a point where you're fast enough to make them almost 100%. You obviously reset from zero, like you start, like anytime you miss one of these two, like to further drive in the idea of developing this skill, anytime you miss one of these two, just bring it back here and start from the beginning, start slow. There you go. Now then, I guess since we have a little bit of time left, I guess I could just enlighten you guys on the idea of peaking. Everybody likes making that old reference to peak advantage and what it means. If you've probably seen it in other places where a charger is against a wall like so and decides to peek out and you can very obviously see why this is a good thing. Walls obscure your hitboxes while also making it hard for people to completely come in after you if you set yourself up against a good position. This is definitely very easily seen in situations like walleye warehouse flat zones, where there's a small block that overlooks the zone and overlooks the box from which enemies come from. You can almost always be sure that if there's an E-leader in that room, they want that box. That position is a good position to hold because it obscures their hitbox completely, and unless there's another charger on the opposite team, it's almost always impossible to dislodge a charger from that position. Now, with regards to peaks are pretty much exactly what you're seeing right here. But peaks don't only have to use walls. You can use the actual ground, like so. You can use actual structures in the game, like there are those inflatable balloons you'll see in places where you can just hide behind them and swing around the corner to the right side. The right side is almost always preferred for peeking because of the idea that if you look at how the England holds the charger, they're all right-handed, so anytime you try to swing on things from the right, it's easier to shoot around versus having to come from the left where you expose yourself to a linear shot. This isn't to say that left side peeking isn't effective, but that it is not as effective as right side peeking. Now, let's see. In this bit of peeking dialogue that I'm having right now. So like I was saying before, you don't have to only use the walls for peeking. You can use the floor, like incline, slopes, you can use other geometry, but something that I feel like I'm going to mention now is you can use teammates. Assuming that this bubble is, in fact, one of your teammates headed forward in front of you, you can actually line up a shot behind them so that if anything happens to them, you can immediately react to whoever got them, or you could just use it as another means to obscure your laser so that other people aren't aware of your presence, and then catch them with direction. Let's see. What else is there? Anything else? Well, with this much off of my head right now, I guess I'm going to end this video, but before I do, I'm going to just show off some of the gear that I've used with different chargers over the ages. So right now, this is currently one of my two builds for the Bento Splatterscope. The Bento Splatterscope being the one with Splash Wall and Echolocator. The entire idea behind this kit is to stay unconscious while moving about, because walls are, I believe the number is a 60% loss on your tank per use, and then of course there's that extra 1 or is it 2 second now delay in between you throwing a wall and your ability to recover ink after using the ink to throw that wall. Ink Saver main, obvious, you use it to have more shots in situations or use more of the ink that you have remaining to get shots, and that's important because with splatter scope specifically, you're almost encouraged to use more shots versus like the E-liters. Ink Saver sub is obvious again because that also reduces some of the penalty from throwing a wall. And Ink Recovery up. I've always liked the tandem of one of the Ink Saver main or sub perks plus Ink Recovery because of the idea that I like the idea that I'm always moving through ink to reposition myself, but while I'm moving through the ink, I'm also getting a little bit extra ink back per interval in between shots. The damage up amounts are just, in the interest of making lethal shots come out quicker. There's no other rhyme or reason to it. I feel like splatter scopes can get away with about 10 to 20 points of damage up. You don't need to front load like I do, but this is just me, and I just like the way this thing looks, which is always more important. Stay fresh, y'all. So, there's this build. If I ever feel like it's more about being mobile, but at the same time not giving up on the other perks, there's this build for it, where instead of using the 3 extra damage subs, I just grab 9 points worth of swim speed. And while it's not like a massive difference, it's enough that it's noticeable, at least to me. The entire name of the game is experiment until you feel comfortable with something. The other build I have with Bento and Current is this one, wherein I trade the Ink Saver sub for a swim speed main for similar reasons, just more mobility, and Ink Saver main and Ink Recovery work well enough on their own together that I don't really feel the issues from throwing walls. Now then, we're gonna move on to the Kelp Splatter Scope. So, the Kelp Splatter Scope comes from a very interesting time when I was still developing myself as a charger, and as such, this is one of the holdovers from it. Mostly because I just really like the way the beret looks, but I've made it work in an interesting way where the beret, specifically opening Gambit, allows me to position myself very, very quickly on the map. People have thrown the counter argument at me that opening Gambit is great, but the moment that you die, you pretty much just lost whatever gear slot that is. But honestly, I feel like the benefits of the increased mobility along with a weapon like the splatter scope where it can get those quick kills and its movement isn't limited by its charge time like the E-liters are, it's made this set one of my go-tos and one that I will always defend even if all the logic isn't sound, if that makes any sense to you. Ink recovery subs in the amount of 9 points total to, once again, control intervals better while moving around. Damage up of about 28 points worth because I like those speedy kills. And the 1 swim speed sub because when this opening gambit buff drops, at least you'll still have maneuverability to move yourself around. It also stacks with the opening gambit buff, so moving around initially is actually really, really fun. Alright, so that's one of the builds, but honestly, I think this is my primary build for this weapon at this point. I cannot recall the older builds I used for the Kelp. Moving on, the E-liter right here is one where I've experimented with a number of different sets, all in the idea of trying to find something that I like. This build is one of the earliest I came up with. Tenacity, because, it's nice to just completely farm Echo from a very safe vantage point, and most times you're playing defense with this weapon anyway. Damage up in that same familiar number of 28 to 30 points because it really does help specifically with E-liter because the longer charge time it has is mitigated by how fast it reaches lethal power based on the same principles I described before. And then ink recovery. I feel like ink recovery is almost mandatory on the E-liter for me personally because the shot intervals become so weird and feel so yuck when I don't have some form of ink recovery going. And then 9 point swim because the E-liter is now a heavy weapon and you just kind of want to move around faster, But if you're the type who doesn't really care, or you're really good about being in positions where you don't have to run from things, then I could suggest the following. However, I'm going to say that this looks way better on male inklings than female inklings, so please consider that, or just get different gear sets going if you're going to do this. So, this is basically almost the same concept, except you drop the special building ability for a more offensive ability. This right here grants you three burst bombs total from a full tank for that old-fashioned E-bombing whenever you need it. But honestly, the bigger benefit is in using or setting up combos, I guess you could say, using a burst bomb and then the weapon itself if you have the aim. Damage up in that same familiar number, 28 to 30 points, because that's my happy number for getting quick kills, and then 10 points ink recovery from the main, because I like ink recovery as an assister to how my shot intervals work. Let me see what else can I mention. So, the custom E-leader. This one is difficult for me personally, because I have had a number of builds, and I've seen a number of builds where they all make sense, but I personally just cannot seem to find one that allows me to have a Kraken that is of any use than a distraction, while also having enough power to do what I need in the field, and just generally feel comfortable with the weapon. So, you obviously get wide tenacities on this thing because you need your Krakens. The damage up number is the same, ink recovery is the same, and then there's one main swim. However, I've never felt like one main swim is enough to overcome the already present nerf to the Kraken speeds and swim speeds in general while using the heavy weapons. Then there was this one, where I completely opted against using any form of... Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's this one where I opted against any form of swim speed. Pretty much, if you ever pop a Kraken while using this, just assume that you're getting the kill instantly, because you can't chase and you will get pushed back by literally any weapon. So no pressuring and no deep flanks. This is purely just self-preservation Krakens. The damage up number again, and the ink recovery number is the same again. Beyond this, there is also... let me see. Oh yeah, load up the shoe. I haven't seen it in a while. There's this variant, where I drop ink recovery, but again, I'm really not a fan of no ink recovery either, and 19 points damage feels kinda on the low side unless you're, again, really playing more to your range than engaging in anything crazy. But I guess with custom E-leader, that's generally the point. This point is probably more so if somebody decided to see this and transcribe some of those ideas to the vanilla E-leader, because I have in fact worn this setup with the vanilla E-leader before. Okay, so with all of this said, I'm going to end this video here. I hope that it helps somebody, anybody. I apologize in advance if my stream of consciousness was kind of rambly, or if I did sound terribly enthused. I was just here, and a friend was discussing how she had just started getting into chargers, and I figured I'd put this out there to help both her and anybody else who might be looking for just a little basic idea on stuff to try and keep in mind while playing the game with the charger class. Tactics, other such things, I guess I could try and clip out more highlights and evaluate them in the future, but I don't know what'll happen, so just stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy all the content I've put out here on my YouTube channel. So once again, this is Azure J, and I'll see you later.